fish. Welcome to the aquarium room, y'all.
Shh. And stop talking. You're ruining my concentration.
Dig in, birthday boy.
Smells like beans.
Yeah, baby! Oh my God!
Hi, I'm Harvin Sebastian, Senior Rigging Artist at Micros Animation.
Hi, I'm Asher. I'm Lead Animator at Micros. And welcome to Master Animation with Micros. So, where do we start, Harvin? Considering my generous nature, let's start with you. Rigging comes before animation and they are usually in a rush.
True, Asher. Rigging comes before the animation in the production. Without rigging, there is nothing to animate. So let me share something about myself. I used to watch cartoon a lot. Well, I love cartoon, I still do. I still watch a cartoon a lot. Even whenever Looney Tunes or Popeye or Tom and Jerry pops up, I still watch it. It relaxes my mind and it makes me laugh. So how about you, Asher?
Well, late 90s cartoons probably shaped us all. But I'm glad in late 1950s in your childhood, they still had Popeye and Tom and Jerry going on TV.
Considering your skill with numbers, I'm glad that you are not a rigging artist. Well, I remember rushing from school to watch Pokemon and Beyblade. Man, those really bring back memories. Watching cartoons made me wonder how those cartoons were made. Plus, I had a great interest in drawing which I picked up from my mom, which made me choose a course in animation, which was actually a 3-year course where we learned 2D animation, 3D animation, pre-production and production. But to know what an actual animation industry is, you have to work in an animation studio. That's where I joined Micros. I was at Micros for a very good 7 years where I learned a lot of stuffs. Where I got to learn that rigging is not a small field, it's a very huge, vast, endless sea. So what about your story, Asha?
Well, just like you, I also had interest in drawing. I would often sketch while I was watching cartoons and try to draw them over on a paper. Plus, I was very interested in performing and acting stuff. I would often copy famous personalities and put them in, weird and funny situations and see how they would react, and often perform them in front of my friends just for a few laughs. So when I found out about animation, it was a perfect blend for me. It had acting, it had drawing skills all together mashed up, and I thought that's what I, wanted to go for. So for that, I later on went to a film school to study animation. But with animation, I was also studying direction, screenwriting, cinematography, editing, which I think eventually helps me and still helps me when I'm talking to directors or animation supervisors, trying to understand where a scene fits and why it is there, or understanding a character. So that really helped. Plus, I also studied 2D animation, traditional, and then I had to switch 3D, which was a struggle for me for a while. But eventually I picked it up and here I am. I've been with Micros for 3 years now. And how does your love for breaking joints got you interested in rigging?
Not exactly. Mostly about the technicalities. But breaking joints, fixing them, creating them, it's part of rigging too.
A day at my desk usually starts with a catch-up with the leadership team. This is a time where we discuss problems if the other teams are having. This is also a place where we discuss solutions and come up with, and from there we distribute it to other team members. I'm usually the point of contact for my team, so if there's any other department, they have a query on the sequence I'm working on, they will probably come up to me, and from there we will discuss and figure out what needs to be done. In general, the rest of the day, I'll probably be reviewing shots, helping my teammates where they need my help, and just making sure that we are on schedule for the project. Rigging is one department I am really dependent on for the good flow of my work. So there could be a catch-up with probably Harvin from rigging, and we may discuss things. Depending on the time zone we are in, if the director is still in the time zone or not, By the end of the day, we may have dailies with the animation supervisor or director on the shots that we had finished on that day.
I start my day by filling up my water bottle. Well, my friends call it as water tank. Obviously, it's a 2-liter jug, so water tank. You gotta stay hydrated, right? So, after filling up my water bottle, water tank, we'll be having catch up with our soups, TLs, HODs, teammates to discuss on the challenges, priorities, assets, deadlines, targets. After discussing all those things, we'll be assigning the task, and it's just not do rigging, but we gotta meet the requirements which comes from the animation or which is for the animation. So when we need a clarity on the anim requirements, we'll be having a catch up with the anim team to discuss, to get more clarity on the rigs which we are yet to deliver.
My thought process before starting a shot would be to analyze what the character is and then go through the notes from animation supervisor, animation director, and understand how important this shot is in terms of the sequence and in the movie. The other thing would be to find the X factor that the shot has, which will sell it to the animation supervisor and then to the director. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that director is happy with what they have imagined in their head and it comes out on the screen. Once that is sorted, I will try to figure out what workflow I would like to go through for this particular shot. There are different workflows, different styles of way people work, and I think that's very crucial to understand before when you are animating a shot. So I would try to find a workflow which is the most fastest and easiest way for me to get that shot done. Maybe once that is done, I'm a reference guy. I will go for a reference shoot. I do that for most of my shots. If I cannot act, I will try to get it from somewhere and combine it just to get an idea of the flow I will be putting in my shot.
Only 7:31 p.m. A meteor which was meant to safely pass by the planet suddenly veered off course, crashing into Avengers, causing massive destruction. I was there, people. I almost got squashed. Whoa, okay. The mad scientist Victoria Vance was arrested after taking credit for the disaster online.
So a good reference is something that cheers me up, and that's the most fun part to have. For example, in this shot of the monkey, when I started working on this shot, I used multiple videos of the monkeys and tried to incorporate them in a single shot. So a monkey hanging onto a tree could be a different video, and a monkey running onto a branch could be a different video. So I would pick those actions, select the ones that I feel are working with my shot, and try to incorporate them. This usually works with the VFX industry or VFX shots, but in terms of CG, there could be less references that are available, and you might just have to go up and shoot for themselves. But that's the most fun part that you can have. That's probably the most fun process I enjoy in animation. That's where you can free things up, forget things, act out. And as I stated initially, that I used to love acting when I was growing up. So this is one chance where I can explore it more and use it for my animation videos.
Hey, Sky. You doing okay? Can't believe I lost my crystal. It could have happened to any one of us. But it didn't. It happened to me. When I was born, I was the runt one. Do you know what that means? You were the smallest? The smallest and the weakest.
Shooting a reference video is more like a TikTok video, but less embarrassing and more fun. In the clip, you must have noticed that I have mixed and matched different videos all together in one shot. And that's what I try to do usually. I would act at times, and then I would make my friends act, and then see which one works better, and probably use the best parts from all those videos and combine it all together. At times your shot could just be very different from what your reference video was, and that's completely fine because it's called a reference for a reason. It's just a reason. Don't try to copy it and replicate it frame by frame. You just have to pick up the nuances that you can and try to incorporate them in your shot. Acting reference videos could take a while. A good acting reference doesn't come in one shot. You may have several takes and then you may have to pick out what works better. This is a good example where how long it took us to get a good reference video, but it was also a fun process.
Good. Come on! You guys are my pups! How bad can it be?
It was a trap. Sky's crystal was stolen.
Come on! You guys are my pups! How bad can it be?
It was a trap. Sky's crystal was stolen.
I'll not look at you. Come on! You guys are my pups! How bad can it be?
It was a trap. Sky's crystal was stolen.
So really? Come on! You guys are my pups! How bad can it be?
It was a trap. Sky's crystal was stolen.
After I have a good reference video, I move to Maya or any other software I'm using. And there I first start with a very simple polygon or a primitive object and try to animate it just to get an idea of the timing and the rhythm of it. Once I'm pretty satisfied and probably get it reviewed from my animation director, once both of us are happy with it, we move to blocking the shot. Blocking generally means we'll have just the basic poses, strong poses, storytelling poses that gives us the idea what we are going to do with the shot. Once we have blocked and finalized the blocking, we move to splining, which is just smoothing things out, making sure the flow is good, and it's a much cleaner process than what the blocking was. Once we have spline approved, we move to polish. That's where we try to add little details that we wanted to make sure our file is clean. There are no intersections between the objects that we were animating, and it's good enough for lighting to pick up.
Stop thinking about what I want, what he wants, what your parents want. What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want? What do you want? Stop thinking about what I want, what he wants, what your parents want. What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want? What do you want? Stop thinking about what I want, what he wants, what your parents want. What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want? What do you want? Stop thinking about what I want, what he wants, what your parents want. What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want? What do you want? Stop thinking about what I want, what he wants, what your parents want. What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want? God damn it. What do you want?
At any of this stage, if we feel the rig is not helping us, we may move to rigging and ask probably Harvin to help us out so that we can give the director what they want.
As a rigging artist, we got to think in a lot of different ways, like a modeling perspective, texturing perspective, FX perspective. Mostly we think about an animation perspective. After doing a rig, whether they'll be able to achieve the poses or how extreme they'll be pulling out the rigs to get the desired pose. So in that scenarios, we got to think like an animator. Sometimes after doing the rig, we might not get the desired pose or the desired actions. So at that point, what we gotta do is, what we will be doing is, we'll be reaching out to animators like Usher. Then we'll be discussing with them how exactly they require it, how they will use it to achieve it. So based on that, we can do the rigs. So discussing with the animators will give us more clarity on how to proceed on a particular rig. Sometimes while we are doing the rigging, we might not achieve a particular pose or a shape very easily. It might look easy, but we won't be able to achieve it that easily. At that point, we'll be thinking out of the box. That's where the rigging technicalities come into function. So mostly, as I said before, the rigging consists of technicalities. You gotta be strong and technical so that you can figure out the easiest solution to fix a particular rigs.
Well, animation and rigging are like siblings. They may fight a lot, but they can also not stay away from each other. A good communication between these two departments is the key for a successful project. Good animation relies heavily on good rigs, and that may not come easy. It could take several passes before we can get what we want. It's not always a smooth process, but it's always peaceful.
Yeah, it's a very peaceful process, you know. Sometimes we even sit together, see how much we watch the animatics and see how much further we can push the rigs, or we even sit together to see the limitations of the rigs, so that speaking with them we'll get to know how much we can push the rigs further. And you know, the road between the rigging and animation, it's the most spotlighted area in the production process.
At the start of the project, before we dive into production, we take the available rigs and try to do a personality test on them. This also helps the team that will be joining us later on understand the style and the personalities of each character that they will be using. For example, this clip from Big Hero 6 has multiple characters all in the same space, but you can clearly see how each character is different from each other. This is a great way for us to understand the rig better and also get the personalities out of the character. This is also a great exercise for us to tell the rigging team where they lag and where they can do better.
It's not an easy task to get the approval from animation. There will be several to and fro's to get the rigs approved. But at the end of the day, what we really need to hear is the rigs are amazing, which motivates us. So what about you, Asha? What do you expect in a good rig?
Well, I'm glad you asked. All we want is a light rig which is easy to move around and controls that can let us do whatever we want. Plus clean deformations, good GUI, smooth blend shapes, proxy rigs, space switches, costume variants, texture variants, stretch and scorch, smart attributes for select body parts, IKFK snaps, volume preservation options, mirrored access for opposite controls, and a versatile rig. That is all we want. That's it.
That's a very small list. Do you carry that all around?
Well, yes.
The interesting character which I've rigged once, which I remember, it was in a Disney show. Okay, so the character's upper body is like as per a like normal character, but the bottom part, the legs, which is actually twisted opposite. Like your front legs will be facing the back of the body and the back leg will be facing the front. So it was a bit challenging because that character is a very small character. It rolls and it bounces off in each walls. So it was a challenging character. It hits on a wall and its face, everything gets squashed, all these things. So it was very fun to do. And the best part which I remember for that is once I've explained how the character works, how the rig works to the animators, they all stood up and applauded for that. So which made me, which motivated me a lot to, you know, give the best rigs.
Well, before starting a shot, I'll probably discuss with everyone that is available. I would probably go to my wife and ask, and she's not from animation. So the idea is to get as many ideas you can before you start your shot. Usually, I would probably discuss with my colleagues. There are people who I think are good animators, who come up with good ideas. I would probably discuss it with them and see if there's something that they can give me, which I can probably, put in my shot. But yeah, in general, it would all probably be my team lead, in case if I'm animating, my supervisor if they're available, and just to make sure that we are all on the same page and before I start animating it.
As a rigging artist, you gotta have a strong knowledge in anatomy, like cats, dogs, humans, horses. Each anatomy for each character is different. Sometimes you gotta break the anatomy to get a proper results, like horses which having 6 legs, some alien creatures, or humans which has 4 legs or 4 hands. It differs. So sometimes what I used to do is that once I get a particular character, I draw lines on top of it to see where to place the joints. to get the proper anatomy, where the deformation will I be getting proper. Sometimes you place the joints in a wrong place, there you won't be getting the proper deformations. So at that point I'll move off the joints a little bit to see where I can get the proper deformations. So basically you got to have a very strong knowledge in anatomy, where to put joints, which area you need to put joints. That's how your animation rigs, it's gonna come proper.
In a good reference video, I will try to pick up the strong poses that I thought I probably may not get otherwise. Then there's always an X factor in a shot that you have got that would sell your shot to the director. Make sure that is covered in your reference and keep it simple, don't complicate it. Even with a complex action in your reference video, you can still make it simple once you are animating it. So don't overcomplicate your acting videos, keep them simple so that it's easier for you to sell it to the director.
As the rigging hacks, like I would suggest that you should be having at least a basic knowledge of scripting, which helps you really a lot in rigging stage. Sometimes, for example, if you are rigging a feathers, which has like at least 20 plus feathers, instead of rigging each and every 20 feathers, once you script it out, once you script that one particular feather, maybe you can run the scripts over and over again, over 20 times, which you will be able to build 20 rigs, 20 feathers within no time. So the best hack in rigging is learn some scripting. It would help you guys a lot.
Well, we work closely with lighting and effects at times. Animation falls between rigging and lighting in the pipeline. So our job as a department towards lighting would be to make sure that give them the files that are clean, that are easy to work with, so they don't have trouble and the project continues to go, smoothly forward. In terms of effects department, they might need our help with some elements. There could be objects flying into the scene, dropping. So they may they may need our help in understanding the timing of it, so the effects feels more reasonable and more believable.
For the tips on the skin painting is like, first you gotta block the skins out. Select each loops, block it for one particular joint. Like for elbow, give a block weights only for the elbow. After that, you gotta lock all the joints. Unlock only the joints which is required. Then smooth the skin. Roughly smooth the skin out. Select the loops or select the vertex. Just flood it off. Smooth the skins out. Once after smoothing, go for the fine tuning. Rotate each elbow or each joints, rotate it. Then you gotta start fine tuning on the skinning.
I hope this was helpful. My advice would be, don't grow up, be active. The industry is changing so fast, it's just unbelievable.
Don't stop learning, because learning helps you a lot in your future process. And watch cartoons, it helps you a lot.
Yeah, that definitely helps. And also follow a lot of animators that are there on social media. They usually post their workflow, at times, so it would be really helpful to understand how different animators are working on their shot. And don't stop working, keep practicing.